Greetings, my name is Julian, and this is another video about the Bonnaroo Music and Arts Festival. This specific video is going to cover camping and the campground area of Bonnaroo. The suggestions that I'm going to post here are going to be things that are just basically my recommendations and suggestions that can help prepare you for the experience. The first thing that I'd like to talk about is preparing in advance. The first thing that you can do whenever deciding on attending the music festival is to just create a list of all the things that you think that you're going to need whenever you're camping at Bonnaroo. This list is going to be very specific to you, so you can have whatever kind of things on the list that you think you're going to need. What I did was to create an area in my house that was sort of a staging area. So anything that I thought I needed, I would just take it and put it in that space. And then I would check it off my list. And then I knew I had it right then and there. And so when it came time to actually pack my car, I just picked everything up and put it into my car and figured out how it would fit into the car actually. Another suggestion about preparing in advance actually is to practice setting up your tent camping area. Whenever you arrive at the site, you're not going to have a whole lot of time to fiddle about and figure things out. So if you have a game plan, a good understanding about how your stuff goes together and how you're going to put your campsite together in advance, that's just really going to help you whenever you're actually there. Because like I said, the amount of time you have to figure stuff out is not that much. When you pull in, it's just really a mad grab for space. So if you can have a good plan in advance of, okay, I'm going to set my tent up this way, and this is how my covering is going to go, and this is kind of where I'm going to be, it's really just going to make your life a lot easier. It's also especially good if you have people that are going with you. You can just give them jobs and say, okay, you're in charge of this, you're in charge of that. And whenever you do get to your campsite, things can come together very, very quickly. The second point that I'd like to talk about is actually going to be the tent itself and the actual campground area. The tent, you do need to have a pretty decent tent. There is the possibility of rain, so you don't want something that is going to flood or has the potential to flood. Now, everybody that you see is going to have a completely different setup, depending on what they want and what they can afford. So most people have some kind of tent as well as some kind of shade producing device. The shade producing device is usually one of those easy up tents that you just kind of pull out of the bag and it just goes whoop, and up it goes. That's what I have. A lot of people have that. Other folks don't have that, and they will just create some kind of tent out of a tarpaulin. And that really works fairly brilliantly, especially if you end up in a really good space and you can really spread it out and really cover your area. The site is just, the temperature at Bonnaroo is just incredibly hot. So you do need a shady space in addition to your tent, because you're not going to be able to sit in your tent because it's just going to be too hot to tolerate. So having a nice shady spot to sit under when you're waiting on your awesome bands to play can just make your experience that much nicer, actually. That being said, about the temperature, a must-have item is water. I don't think you can actually have too much water, so make sure that you bring enough water for yourself as well as the other people that are going to be with you. Dehydration is a real issue, and it can happen very, very quickly, especially if you kind of do a lot of 12-ounce curls while you're waiting on your favorite band. So try to stay hydrated while you're there and have as much water as you can just to stay hydrated. A tip that I read was to actually get water bottles and then freeze them in advance. and then put those frozen bottles into a cooler, I found that worked really well, and the bottles actually did stay mostly frozen for not the entire time, but for a couple days actually. So it was actually a very good plan to freeze the bottles in advance. Some other folks talked about dry ice. I did not try dry ice in my cooler, but maybe that's something that you want to give a shot to. I don't know. It may work. It may be a complete bust, however you wish to approach that. But definitely, have a pretty decent tent, have some good shade, figure out how you want to put all that together on your campsite, and that would be probably the best way to go about it. The third point that I kind of want to talk about also is in terms of clothing. Because it is very hot, I just kind of generally recommend, some comfy shoes, big floppy hat, sunglasses, and definitely sunscreen. That's just kind of my opinion. You'll see all kinds of people in all sorts of states of dress. Some people will have more clothes on than others. Some people will have different idea about how to dress, and that's okay, because the one thing that is awesome about Bonnaroo is that it's a place where everyone is normal. There's nobody there that's strange or different, really. It's kind of interesting to think of it that way, but and clothing and how people dress is their method of expression. So how you choose to dress, if you want to dress in costume or if you want to do the more practical thing, which is kind of what I do, whatever you want to do is completely up to you. You're not going to be you're not going to stand out, actually, unfortunately. So yeah, clothing is kind of whatever you wish it to be, but since it is very sunny and very hot, I'm tend to lean more towards the practical end of the spectrum. It's also a good idea to prepare for rain. In 2015, it did not rain, actually, which was kind of nice and also kind of not nice. But there is always the potential for rain. So definitely umbrella, or maybe like some other kind of rain gear, like a poncho of some kind, whatever works for you. Or of course, if you're not wearing a lot of clothing, then it really doesn't matter if you have a poncho or umbrella. Actually, you can just kind of shed it off your skin. So, but do think about rain and the sun as being the two biggest weather items that you can actually experience at Bonnaroo, and so preparing for those things can be highly beneficial. The fourth point to talk about is actually cleanliness. What you will find is that you, as well as everyone else attending, will be an extremely dirty hippie for the duration of the show, and that's okay, and that's acceptable. To bask in the filthiness that is the Bonnaroo Festival, actually. But to talk about cleanliness is I think important, and having some soap and water to keep your eating utensils clean, and also as well as your person. Some people have the black bags, which are showers, and they have the tubes that run out of them. Some people have that. You can also just kind of like fill up a jug with water and set it on the roof of your car and let the sun heat it up and just kind of pour it over your head if you want to do it that way. Or maybe there's some kind of sanitation wipe, for example, that you want to use to kind of clean your skin off if you want to do that. There are showers available. They were $10 to use a shower in 2015, which is kind of expensive, I think. But if you really want to get yourself clean, that's one of the most effective ways. In addition to some other cobbled together method that you can put at your campsite. Other things like wet wipes, hand sanitizer, and toilet paper. I think those are the top 3 items that a person can have in attendance, and realistically, those are three very important items that you probably don't want to forget. So wet wipes, hand sanitizers, toilet paper, definite good items to have. If you do forget something, whatever it may be, batteries, some of the items I've mentioned already, or who knows what, there is a general store which is down near the center. They sell a large collection of various types of items, personal items, really kind of just about anything that you might need. I think they also sell some food and whatnot. It's a bit expensive to buy things like that at the general store. However, if you need something, you can get it. So don't feel like you're going to be sort of out if you do forget something that you really need to have there. Food safety is something to talk about as well. Because it's really hot, coolers tend not to last very long. Ice is available, and you can buy ice. It again is also a bit expensive. However, if you need to have it, then you need to have it. And food safety is something to think about, especially if you are going to bring items like meat, for example, along with your trip. You definitely want to try and reduce the probability of foodborne illness if you can. Having the trots at Bonnaroo is probably one of the worst experiences to have, I would imagine. It didn't happen to me. However, it's a likelihood if you don't take care of yourself and you don't take care of your food. So, cleanliness and food safety is really important if you can do that. So just kind of remember those sorts of things. The fifth point that I'd like to talk about is also going to be related to the previous topic, and it's going to be things like food and snacks. This area I'm really not going to get too far into because it's really up to you and what you like and what you don't like. What I found that worked really well for me was to kind of go light on things and really only focus on breakfast and lunch. So I only brought food for breakfast and lunch because the shows are going to start about noonish or 1 o'clock, maybe a little bit earlier, but they're going to run all the way through the evening. And so what I found was I was going to end up being over in the center area where all the music was going to happen, and I didn't really want to come back to my campsite to fix food. So I decided to just have breakfast and lunch at my campsite and then have dinner over in the center. And there's a ton of options that are over in the center area, actually. And so that was just kind of my theory behind the whole thing. So for breakfast, I did oatmeal, and I just had the little instant package that you mix boiling water with. I'd have my coffee in that in the morning, and that worked completely well for me. And then in the afternoon, I would do things like pretzels and peanut butter sandwiches, and I had all kinds of snacks, trail mix, and just a variety of things of that nature. Whatever you bring is really going to depend on your tastes and preferences and what you really want. I mean, I did see some folks who were cooking, really full breakfasts and meals. They had everything you could imagine. So that kind of area is really whatever you want to do. But again, don't forget about food safety and make sure that you don't make yourself sick by leaving things out to spoil in the extremely hot sun. So whatever you like. This section that I'd like to talk about is actually in reference to the pods. In the campground area, there are a number of different pods which are distributed throughout the entire campground. At pods, you're going to find things like water, shower facilities, toilets, hand washing stations, charging stations are usually at pod areas. Medics are there, safety personnel. Those kinds of things that are what you'll find at pods, and they are distributed pretty much in a fairly central location to wherever it is you're camping. So you're either going to be really close or really far away, or well, actually not really far away, but you may have to walk just a slight ways to get to one. But the pods are actually a very excellent thing that Bonnaroo provides for campers. The last item that I wanted to talk about is things to leave at home. And on the Bonnaroo website, you're going to see a list of prohibited items. Take a look through that list. When you pull in, they are going to search your vehicle and they're going to try to find most of these things. They're really looking for mostly glass and other some specific items that they really don't want in the area. So go ahead and take a look at the list and try not to bring those things along with you. So that's just kind of that thing to not bring with you. Other thing to not bring along is of course your bad attitude. You know, if you are somebody who just isn't going to fit with this kind of environment, then you may not want to come. If you are a person who is known for being a mean drunk, then you probably shouldn't drink or perhaps not come either. Also, you know, if you have an issue with drugs of some sorts that you just can't manage, then you know, don't bring that along with you as well. It's all about you and everybody else. Your behavior will impact other people's behavior, and it will affect the whole vibe of everything. So, you know, if you could be a positive person, then everybody's going to be a really positive person too, and it's just going to make for a much better, awesome environment. So hopefully this video has given you some information and some ideas about things that you can do to improve your camping happiness, and maybe giving you a little bit of an idea about kind of what to expect in your camping area. So I hope you really enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.